So we'll move on to item 8.2. Approval of the settlement agreement, release of all claims in the Brad Carey v. Mason County lawsuit filed in Thurston County. Cause number 20-2-00081-34, and ask staff to come forward. Or would you like to just sit there and be?
I'm happy to go up to the podium, but
No,
if you're willing
you're
to
fine
allow
right
me to sit
there.
here. A little bit of background, and this is still active litigation until there's a reached agreement and an order of dismissal. So with that being said, I will somewhat limit my statements. Brad Carey filed a public records lawsuit in Thurston County, I believe on the 9th or 10th of January under cause number 20-2-00081-34. Mr. Carey made a public records request to the Department of Community Development in April of 2019. It was later determined that, well, that public records request was what thought it was satisfied the next day. Turns out that there were additional records that the Department of Community Development did not have in its possession at the time. We learned of those records recently. We got those records to Mr. Carey. It had been some time. He filed the public records lawsuit, and now we are settling the public records lawsuit upon the board's approval for a release of all claims and $30,000 in what we believe is a fair and equitable resolution to the complaint that he had filed in Thurston County. Any questions?
Any questions from the public?
Yeah, Tim, when was that decision made?
The decision made, what decision?
The decision to settle as opposed to file for a defense at the court.
Well, the decision is being made right now.
But you only had 20 days to do it, and that time has elapsed. I'll have comments.
Okay.
All right, we'll open this up to additional discussion.
Thank you, Commissioners. Tom Davis. I guess communication has never been my strong suit. My understanding was that, or my wish was to have this item taken off the agenda, not for a separate vote, but to have it actually removed to give people a chance to discuss the particulars of this item, not here, not on the public record. Evidently, I failed in that communication. So what it leaves us now is several questions. I understand that in the private sector, you can make inconveniences go away by paying for them with private money, and certainly politicians are famous for doing that, but we don't do that in the public sector, not without an extraordinary amount of information. This is public money. This is $30,000 worth of public money. The public was not given an adequate time to look at this, to see the issue. It was simply, and I do appreciate the cause number being referenced in the action item agenda, so at least it gave people who cared about this kind of thing an opportunity to follow through. But that's not enough time. The complaint itself is riddled with questions and concerns. And somehow along the process, it was made to make this go away. And what we have basically is two documents. The first document was filed, the summons was January 6th of this year, which meant that you had 20 days, the county had 20 days to respond according to the summons in order to defend against this lawsuit. It's 28 days now, so I don't understand how we're looking at dismissing this 28 days when by fault you've already lost the case. So I don't understand the process. When you folks go into executive session, you don't make decisions, you just gather information. And then you come out and say no decisions are made, and then all of a sudden this appears after the due date. That's not due process, that's wrong. So I don't, again, I wasn't prepared actually to, I thought we had an understanding and I thought we weren't going to discuss this at this time. But if we are going to discuss it at this time, then I think more of an explanation should be forthcoming, because there's been considerable allegations of wrongdoing. I don't want to have a trial. I'm not a lawyer, but I have a lot of questions about this thing before we move forward on it. So I would strongly, very strongly urge you not to approve this dismissal, in which case, or the just make sure the release of all claims until we get a little bit further discussion. I'd personally be more than willing to have that discussion with one or more of you folks in private, but I'd certainly like my questions to be answered before you vote on this.
I'll answer some of those questions, do the best I can. There was an agreement between the plaintiff and the county as the lawyer to stay proceedings, so there's no default against the county for going beyond the 20 days. That's quite common. Time is of the essence with these public records requests, lawsuits. There was a status hearing last Friday that the plaintiff struck due to pending and hopefully getting a resolution to the case. And this is standard operating procedure for any county with any public records lawsuit. If you look back at the history of this county or other counties, this is how it's done. So I would say there's no irregularities of how this is proceeded.
Well, again, this decision was made in executive session.
No, decision was made in executive session to put this on the action agenda today.
The plaintiff has already signed this.
The plaintiff has agreed to these terms. Now it's on the county commissioner's plate to agree to these terms.
The fact that we're talking about it at this point shows that, okay, these are some of the things that unfortunately now we're going to have to pursue. I think that it's unfortunate. One of the things that we keep on popping up is the relationship between people here and the level of trust. This does do nothing to confirm that we have an open and honest relationship. You can't just put this on the table here a couple of days before without any additional information and then tell the public, well, if you want to know more about it, go down to Thurston County and pick up the information, especially when there's wrongdoing alleged. Now, the wrongdoing may not exist, but it's alleged, and $30,000 of public money you're paying without informing the public. That's, if you want to pay it yourself, go right ahead. But it doesn't go away without some impact all the way down to the budget. We have discussions about this all the time. This was not done appropriately. That's my personal opinion. I don't need another axe to grind here. I really don't. But you certainly do just fall right into it. This should have not been on the agenda. This should have been a discussion privately, and that didn't happen, and that's very unfortunate. Now I got another hobby. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
There.
Mike Olson. I didn't know about this either until I read an agenda. And my question is, as a former city commissioner, having gone through a few of these things, was it easier is the insurance going to pay for this, or is this coming out of the county budget? Because in my experience, a lot of times these were easily solved because, well, the insurance company will pick it up, which increases premiums, as we all know. So that's my question. Is this going to be settled out of the county budget, or is the insurance company going to pay it?
Insurance does not cover public records lawsuits.
Any further questions, comments? All right.
Madam Chair, I just one comment in response to the public comment that we received today. When we chatted this morning, I wasn't under the impression that you wanted this completely tabled. I thought you wanted an opportunity to make comment on it, and so I misunderstood what your request was. I think your questions are tough but in bounds, and there's only so much that we could discuss. I'm not willing to give up the privileged conversations that we've had under the law in executive session, and so we are limited in that kind of a conversation. But if there was a miscommunication, I apologize for that. I didn't understand what you were asking for this morning. But I'm glad you have another hobby, so I'm always happy to help you on that one. With that, Madam Chair, I would move approval of item 8.2, approval of the settlement agreement, release of all claims in the Brad Carey versus Mason County lawsuit filed in Thurston County, cause number 20-2-00081-34.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the settlement agreement release of all claims in the Brad Carey v. Mason County lawsuit filed in Thurston County, cause number 202-00081-34. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.